Hi, my name is Sophia B. Liu. I'm a PhD candidate at University of Colorado in Boulder. I'm also on the job market. And I will be talking about crisis culture and curation. So in this talk, I want to offer you a conceptual way of thinking about all the different activities we are doing. And it's a way to inspire the design of future crisis mapping technologies. So you might ask, well, what is curation? Well, the Latin root curatus means to take care of. Curators are keepers and custodians of our museum collections, but they are also the stewards of our history. And you might ask, well, what's the big deal about curation? It's actually kind of a buzzword, and we've already heard it from some of the speakers. And in Google, you can kind of see a trend over the past 5 years, and in Delicious, you can kind of see a trend since 2008 and more so in 2009. So what's the connection between crisis and curation? Well, I would say Eric Hirschman points out that, we're actually at a point of information overload. There's just too much information, too difficult to organize and retrieve. If you just look up Haiti earthquake, you get 14.3 million results. And that's just so much. How are we supposed to filter that? And that's the connection to curation and crisis. Eric Hirschman points out that we are at a point where it's so easy to report crisis data, but it's not that easy to consume it. We've got all this wasted crisis data. And there's real value in curating information during the emergency period to actually save lives. But there's also value in long-term curation of historic data, as Chris points out. We can find trends and assess our vulnerabilities to engage in disaster mitigation and strengthen our resilience to future crises by looking at the past. So what I did was I looked at how social media experts talk about curation. I bookmarked these on Delicious, and what I found was this emerging curatorial practice that I call socially distributed curation. And the way in which I unpack curation is based on 7 archetypes here. Most people think of curation in the upper right corner. Social media experts really focus on the editorial role. But there are also others who are looking at the story making and exhibiting kind of roles. So whether you call them digital curators or content curators, it's essentially people who are selecting and finding the best, most high-quality content out there. So these content curators are our filters, finding the signal within the noise, separating the wheat from the chaff. But then we also have these well-known social media experts who talk about and emphasize that social beats search. So essentially, we are relying on our social network to find relevant and reliable information. And it's our friends that are our filters right now. And then we have these bloggers that talk about the curation activities that happen in exhibitions and gallery spaces. And it's about juxtaposing and arranging the chosen artifacts to tell a story, a narrative. And it's really to provide a context. And that's the link I make to crisis mapping, evident in the icon. Time and place are fundamental to providing context and to facilitate sense-making. And it's through visual maps and timelines that become our exhibition spaces. Ushahidi, Haiti is a great example of curation in action. As Patrick Meyer puts it, volunteers were combing the information ecosystem, trying to find time-sensitive information actionable enough to save lives. And it's because of social media and these free cloud computing services that allowed them to tap into these social filters. But it was still largely a manual process of curation, creating these Google Docs, going individually to each of these sites to find relevant information. But we now have Swift River, as we'll hear about next, and it's a step towards Licklider's vision of man-computer symbiosis. But it's not just one man or woman, but rather a crowd validating crisis data. And if you look up curation on YouTube, that's the first video that actually comes up. And this is an in-house data visualization tool that my colleague Kate Starberg created called eData Viewer. And it's a way to visualize large data sets, as we increasingly have, like in Twitter. So each row is a user's Twitter stream, and each ball is a tweet represented over time during the 2009 Red River flooding. And we clustered each user based on their location, and through that, we were able to find some trends in how people were tweeting during the flood. And it's through visualizations like this that allows us to find the signal within the noise. And then I want to lastly point out that there is value in curating historical data across crises and over time. But there's also value in curating predictions and forecasts. Consider this juxtaposition of Boston if their sea level would rise. I want to leave you with this last quote by a curator at the Smithsonian museum. And I think this speaks to why I think curation is an important part of our culture. As curators, we have great power to determine and help shape our national memory. It's a power that we use judiciously and openly. We have the power to determine which objects are saved and whose stories are told. And I hope we all take part in this kind of power to help strengthen our resilience to future crises. Thank you.